The stars had always been quiet. For all of human history, people looked up at the night sky and wondered if anyone else was out there. They sent signals, built telescopes, and dreamed of contact. But the universe remained silent. Until it wasn't. The first sign came on a Tuesday morning. A farmer in Argentina noticed his cows behaving strangely, all staring at the same spot in the sky. A fisherman in Korea saw lights moving in patterns that made no sense. Children in schools across the world pressed their faces against windows and pointed upward. Then the shadow came. It was not one ship. It was hundreds. They blocked out the sun over major cities, casting entire countries into artificial twilight. The ships were enormous, each one the size of a small mountain, covered in sharp angles and glowing symbols that hurt to look at directly. Admiral Kim Do-hyun was eating breakfast when his phone rang. He was a calm man, known for his steady hands and quiet voice. He had served in the United Earth Defense Force for 30 years, commanding fleets in the asteroid belt and keeping peace in the outer colonies. He had never seen combat against another intelligent species. No human had. "Sir," the voice on the phone said, "you need to see this." 20 minutes later, Kim Do-hyun stood in the command center beneath the mountains of Switzerland. Screens covered every wall, showing images from satellites and ground stations around the world. The alien fleet hung in orbit like a ring of steel around the Earth. "How many?" Kim Do-hyun asked. Captain Park Yuna stepped forward. She was the head of intelligence. A woman with sharp eyes and a mind that never stopped working. 847 ships confirmed, sir. More arriving every hour. Do we know who they are? They're broadcasting. Same message, every frequency, every language. Park Yuna touched a screen, and a voice filled the room. It was deep and rumbling, like stones grinding together. The translation software converted it to Korean, then English, then a dozen other languages simultaneously. People of Earth, we are the Velen Empire. We rule 412 star systems. We have conquered 631 species. You are species 632. You will surrender your planet, your resources, and your population within 72 hours. If you refuse, we will destroy your cities, burn your fields, and sell your children as slaves across the galaxy. There will be no negotiation. There will be no mercy. This is the only message you will receive. The command center was silent. Kim Do-hyun stared at the screen for a long moment. Then he turned to his staff. "Get me Commander Lee Ji-hoon, and someone bring me some tea. This is going to be a long day." Commander Lee Ji-hoon arrived within the hour. He was the chief strategist of Earth's defense forces, a man who had spent his entire career preparing for wars that never came. He was thin and tired-looking, but his mind was a weapon sharper than any missile. "What do we know about them?" Kim Do-hyun asked. Lee Ji-hoon pulled up data on the main screen. The Velen Empire. Old. Powerful. They've been conquering worlds for about 6,000 years. Their method is simple. Arrive with overwhelming force, demand surrender, destroy anyone who refuses. And it works? It's worked 631 times. Park Yuna added. "But there's something strange, sir. Look at their technology." She zoomed in on one of the alien ships. Kim Do-hyun studied it carefully. The design was impressive, certainly. The ship was large and well-armed. But something about it felt old. "Their weapon systems," Park Yuna said. "They're using plasma cannons, magnetic shielding, basic fusion drives. This is good technology. Maybe even great technology. But sir, it's technology we had 100 years ago." Kim Do-hyun raised an eyebrow. "Are you saying we're more advanced than them?" "I'm saying their ships would have scared us in 2080, but this is 2187. Lee Ji-hoon nodded slowly. "They've never met anyone who could fight back. Every species they've conquered was either primitive or just starting to explore space. They've never had to improve because they've never faced a challenge." Kim Do-hyun considered this. He walked to the window and looked out at the mountain peaks. Somewhere above those mountains, An alien fleet waited to conquer his world. They had done this hundreds of times before. They expected it to be easy. "What are our options?" he asked. "We could surrender," Lee Ji-hoon said. "Accept whatever terms they offer, and hope for the best. And the other option? We fight." Kim Do-hyun turned back to his staff. He saw fear in some faces, determination in others. These were good people. They had trained their entire lives for a moment like this, even though most of them never believed it would actually come. "If we fight," Kim Do-hyun said, "can we win?" Lee Ji-hoon and Park Yuna exchanged glances. Then Lee Ji-hoon spoke carefully. "Sir, based on our analysis of their fleet, their weapons, and their tactics, yes, we can win. We can win easily." The room stirred. Someone laughed nervously. "Easily," Kim Do-hyun repeated. "They have numbers," Park Yuna said. "But our weapons are more accurate, our ships are faster, our shields are stronger, and our tactics are more advanced. They're fighting the way they fought 6,000 years ago because it always worked. They have no idea what they're facing." Kim Do-hyun nodded slowly. He returned to the command console and opened a channel to the alien fleet. The screen flickered, and then a face appeared. It was not human. The creature had gray skin, 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern, and a mouth full of teeth that looked designed for tearing meat. It wore armor, decorated with symbols, that probably meant something important. "I am High Commander Torek of the Velan Empire," the creature said. "You have received our terms. Do you surrender?" And, quote, Kim Do-hyun looked at the alien for a long moment. He thought about all the worlds this creature had conquered, all the species enslaved or destroyed. All the lives ended because they couldn't fight back. Then he smiled. "High Commander," Kim Do-hyun said, "thank you for your offer. We've discussed it carefully, and we've decided to decline." Torek's 4 eyes blinked in confusion. "Decline?" "Yes. We're not going to surrender. We're not going to give you our planet or our people, and we're certainly not going to let you sell our children as slaves." Kim Do-hyun's smile faded. "In fact, I think you should leave. Also Burfording 1. I Francis last. And Elo. Go back to your empire and tell them that Earth is not available." The alien stared at him. For a long moment, it seemed unable to speak. "You refuse?" "We refuse. No species has ever refused." Kim Do-hyun shrugged. "There's a first time for everything." Torek's face twisted into something that might have been rage. "Then you will die. All of you. Every man, woman, and child on your planet will die screaming, and the galaxy will forget you ever existed." "Maybe," Kim Do-hyun said. "But I don't think so." He leaned forward slightly. "You've conquered 631 species, Commander. You've never lost. But here's the thing. Neither have we. And we've been fighting a lot longer than you." He cut the transmission. The command center was silent. Then, Park Yuna spoke quietly. "Sir, do you think that was wise? Making them angry?" Kim Do-hyun turned to his staff. His face was calm, but his eyes were bright with something that might have been excitement. "Get me Captain Choi So-mi," he said. "I think it's time for a demonstration." High Commander Torek paced the bridge of his flagship, the Velan's Glory. His boots struck the metal floor with heavy, angry sounds. His officers stood at their stations, carefully avoiding his gaze. No one had ever refused before. In 6,000 years of conquest, no species had looked at the Velan fleet and said no. It was impossible. It was insulting. It was insane. "They're bluffing," Torek growled. "They must be. They've seen our fleet. They know what we can do." His second-in-command, a younger officer named Bora, stepped forward carefully. "High Commander, perhaps we should learn more about them before we attack." Their refusal was very confident. They might know something we don't. "Know something?" Torek spun around, all 4 eyes blazing. "What could they possibly know?" "They're primitives. They've barely left their own star system. With respect, sir, they've colonized several planets and moons. They have orbital stations and mining operations throughout their system. That suggests a certain level of... Enough! Torek slammed his fist on the console. I've commanded this fleet for 200 years. I've conquered more worlds than you've had meals. These humans are nothing. They will learn their place, or they will burn. Bora lowered her head. Yes, High Commander. At that moment, a communication signal arrived from Earth. Torek smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. Ah. They've reconsidered. Open the channel. The screen flickered to life, showing the human admiral again. He still looked calm. Torek hated that calmness. High Commander, Admiral Kim Do-hyun said, I hope you've had time to think about our conversation. I have thought about nothing else, Torek replied. Have you come to surrender? No. But I have a proposal. Torek's eyes narrowed. We do not negotiate. This isn't a negotiation. It's an invitation. Kim Do-hyun's expression remained pleasant, almost friendly. You want to show us your power. You want to frighten us into submission. I understand. It's worked before. So here's what I suggest. Send your finest warship to meet one of ours in neutral space. A simple demonstration. No tricks, no traps. Just a fair fight between two ships. Let's see what your empire can really do. Torek felt his blood rise. This human was challenging him, mocking him, treating the Velen Empire like some minor power to be tested. You want a demonstration? Torek said. You'll get one. I'll send the Velen's Pride, our greatest destroyer. Wonderful. Kim Do-hyun said. We'll send the Sejong. Coordinates to follow. The transmission ended. Bora stepped forward again. Sir, the Velen's Pride is our most powerful warship. Surely that's excessive for a single human vessel. I want them to see what they're facing, Torek said. I want them to watch their ship die and know that the same fate awaits their entire species. Send the Pride. Tell them to leave nothing but debris. 3 hours later, the Velen's Pride arrived at the coordinates. It was an impressive ship. Nearly 2 kilometers long, covered in weapons and armored in plates of reinforced metal. It had destroyed entire fleets by itself. The human ship was already waiting. It was small, absurdly small, maybe 300 meters from front to back. It was sleek and silver, shaped like a blade, with no visible weapons. It looked like a toy next to the massive Velan destroyer. Commander Bora stood on the bridge of the Pride, watching through the view screen. She had been given command of this mission personally, a great honor. But something felt wrong. The human ship just sat there, silent and still, like it was waiting for something. Open a channel, Bora said. The screen showed a human face. It was a woman with short black hair and calm eyes. She wore a simple uniform with a name badge. Choi So-mi. This is Captain Choi So-mi, of the Earth vessel Sejong, the woman said. Are you ready to begin? Quote. Bora studied her. The human showed no fear at all. Not even a little. She looked almost bored. I am Commander Bora of the Velen's Pride, Bora replied. You understand what's about to happen? We're going to destroy you. I understand what you think is about to happen, Choi So-mi said. Shall we? Bora cut the transmission. All weapons, target that ship. Fire at will. The Velen's Pride unleashed everything it had. Plasma cannons, missile banks, particle beams, all firing at once in a storm of destruction that would have cracked a moon in half. The human ship wasn't there anymore. Bora blinked. The Sejong had moved so fast that her sensors hadn't even tracked it. One moment it was in front of them. The next, it was simply gone. Where is it? Bora demanded. Find that ship. Commander, a sensor officer shouted. Bora spun around. Through the rear view screen, she saw the tiny silver ship hanging in space, like it had always been there. It hadn't attacked. It was just watching. How did it? Bora started. Then, the Sejong moved again. It didn't fly like any ship Bora had ever seen. It didn't accelerate or turn or bank. It simply changed direction instantly, as if physics meant nothing to it. 1 second it was behind them, the next it was below them, then above them, then beside them. "Fire! Keep firing!" Bora shouted. The Valan's pride poured weapons fire into space, but the human ship danced through it like rain through leaves. Nothing touched it. Nothing came close. And then, the Sejong started shooting back. Bora never saw the weapons. There was no beam, no missile, no visible projectile. But suddenly, her shields were gone. Just gone. Then her weapon systems went offline. Then her engines. Then her communications. The attacks came so fast that Bora couldn't even give orders between them. Every system on her ship failed, one after another, in perfect sequence. The lights went out. The artificial gravity flickered. Emergency alarms blared and then went silent as those systems failed too. In less than 4 minutes, the Velen's Pride, the most powerful warship in the Empire, was a dead hulk, drifting in space. Bora stood in darkness on her bridge, surrounded by the sounds of her crew trying to restore systems that no longer existed. Her ship hadn't been destroyed. It had been taken apart, piece by piece, with surgical precision. A light flickered on one of the emergency consoles, an incoming transmission. Bora touched the control. Captain Choi Somi's face appeared on the small screen. She still looked calm. She still looked almost bored. "Commander Bora," she said. "Your ship has been disabled. Do you require assistance? We have medical teams standing by. If you have any wounded." Bora stared at her. "You're offering us help? Of course. You're not our enemy. You're just people following orders from leaders who don't understand what they're dealing with." Choi Somi paused. "Go back to your fleet, Commander. Tell your High Commander what happened here. Tell him that this was one small frigate against your greatest warship, and the fight lasted 4 minutes. Then tell him to think very carefully about his next move." The transmission ended. Bora stood in the darkness for a long time. Around her, her crew worked to restore basic systems, life support, minimal thrust, enough to limp back to the fleet. They worked in silence. No one spoke about what had happened, but they were all thinking about it. They had come to demonstrate the power of the Velen Empire. Instead, the humans had demonstrated something else entirely. The Pride hadn't just been defeated. It had been humiliated, embarrassed, treated like a training exercise by a ship 1/10 its size. When Bora finally made it back to the main fleet and reported to High Commander Torek, she told him the truth. All of it. She told him about the speed, the weapons, the impossible maneuvers. She told him about Captain Choi Somi's offer of medical assistance. Torek listened in silence. His 4 eyes were very still. "This changes nothing," he said finally. "One ship doesn't matter. We have 800. We'll overwhelm them with numbers." "Sir," Bora said carefully, "if one of their small frigates can do that to our greatest destroyer, what can their entire fleet do?" "Distard. It is now some things not personed. Also, it's not nos. We'll find out," Torek said. "Prepare all ships. We attack Earth in 12 hours. Bora wanted to argue. She wanted to tell him this was madness, that they were walking into a trap, that everything about this mission had gone wrong from the beginning, but she didn't. She just saluted and returned to her new ship, the second destroyer in the fleet, and began preparing for a battle she already knew they would lose. On Earth, Admiral Kim Do-hyun watched the recording from the Sejong. He saw the Velen destroyer disabled in minutes. He saw Captain Choi Somi's calm face as she offered help to her defeated enemy. "They'll come now," Commander Lee Ji-hoon said. "The whole fleet," Kim Do-hyun nodded. "Yes, they will. Are we ready?" The Admiral looked at his tactical displays. Ships were moving into position throughout the solar system. Weapons were being charged. Pilots were climbing into cockpits. Soldiers were checking their equipment. 17 place. 144. We've been ready for this our whole lives, Kim Do-hyun said. We just didn't know it. Ambassador Kel had served the Velen Empire for over 300 years. She had negotiated the surrender of dozens of worlds. She had written treaties that turned proud civilizations into obedient colonies. She was patient, clever, and very good at her job. But she had never seen anything like the humans. High Commander Torek had sent her to Earth as a final gesture before the attack. Go down there, he had ordered. Walk among them. Find their weaknesses. Find something we can use. So Kel had taken a shuttle down to Earth's surface, accompanied by 2 guards. She expected to find a frightened population, maybe some resistance fighters, perhaps leaders trying to negotiate better terms. That's what usually happened in the final hours before conquest. Instead, she found a woman waiting for her at the landing pad, smiling. Ambassador Kel, the woman said. Welcome to Earth. I'm Han Mirei, diplomatic envoy for the United Earth government. We're so pleased you could visit. Kel studied her. Han Mirei was small, like all humans seemed to be. She had a pleasant face and intelligent eyes. She showed no fear at all. You know why I'm here, Kel said. In 12 hours, our fleet will attack your planet. Why are you smiling? Because I'm happy to meet you, Han Mirei said. Come, let me show you around. Kel had expected to be taken to military bases, weapons, factories, defense installations. Instead, Han Mirei took her to a school. It was a bright building full of small humans, children, Kel realized. They were sitting at desks, looking at screens, talking to teachers. Some of them glanced at Kel and her guards with curiosity, but most just continued their lessons. What is this place? Kel asked. A school. Children come here to learn. Learn what? Han Mirei laughed. Some of that, eventually. But mostly, they learn reading, mathematics, science, history, art. How to think. How to question. How to understand the universe and their place in it. Kel frowned. You waste resources on this? On art? And philosophy? When you could be training soldiers? Code. We have plenty of soldiers, Han Mirei said. We don't have enough artists. They walked through the school. Children waved at them. One small girl offered Kel a drawing. She had made a picture of Kel herself, with her gray skin and 4 eyes, surrounded by flowers. Kel took the paper without knowing what to say. Next, Han Mirei took her to a hospital. Kel expected to see wounded soldiers, warriors being prepared for battle. Instead, she saw ordinary people being treated for ordinary problems. Doctors moved between patients, checking readings, adjusting treatments, speaking in soft voices. When your fleet arrives, Han Mirei said, these doctors will treat the wounded. Yours and ours. They're already preparing. Kel stared at her. You would treat our wounded? Of course. They're people. That's foolish. We're your enemies. No, Han Mirei said. You're people who have been told we're your enemies. There's a difference. No, they visited more places. A farm where food grew in vast fields under an open sky. A factory where machines built other machines with precision that made Kel's engineers look primitive. A museum full of paintings, sculptures, and strange objects from Earth's history. Kel stopped in front of one display. It showed weapons, old ones, primitive ones. Swords, spears, early guns, bombs. These are from our wars, Han Mirei explained. We used these to kill each other for thousands of years. 1. You fought among yourselves? Constantly. Nations against nations, religions against religions, ideologies against ideologies. We fought over land, resources, pride, fear. We built empires and tore them down. We invented new weapons and used them on our own people. Kel looked at the displays with new interest. You were conquerors. Like us. Exactly like you, Han Mirei said. We did everything you're doing now. We invaded, we enslaved, We destroyed anyone who stood against us. For most of our history, that's all we knew. What changed? Han Mireille led her to another part of the museum. Here, the displays were different images of destruction on a massive scale. Cities turned to ash. Landscapes reduced to poison and glass. Numbers that made Kel's eyes widen. Millions dead. Tens of millions. Hundreds of millions. We got too good at war, Han Mireille said. We built weapons that could destroy everything. And we used them. Twice. We came close to ending our entire species. After the second time, we finally understood something. What? Conquest doesn't work. Han Mireille turned to face Kel directly. It never worked. Every empire we built eventually fell. Every territory we conquered eventually rebelled. Every people we enslaved eventually rose up. The resources we spent on war could have been spent on growth. The mines we used for destruction could have been used for creation. We added up the costs, and we realized we had been fools for thousands of years. Kel was quiet for a long moment. So you stopped fighting? We stopped fighting each other. We still know how to fight better than ever. Actually. But we only fight when we have to. And we never fight for conquest anymore. Because conquest is inefficient. It's stupid. It costs more than it gains, every single time. They left the museum and walked into a public square. People moved around them, talking, laughing, eating food, playing with children. Normal life, happening right beneath the shadow of an alien invasion fleet. Your people don't seem frightened, Kel observed. They're not. 800 warships are about to attack them. Yes, and they're not frightened. Han Mireille smiled. We've done the math, Ambassador. We know what your fleet can do. We know what our fleet can do. The numbers aren't close. Kel felt something cold settle in her stomach. She thought about Commander Bora's report, the Velan's Pride. Disabled in 4 minutes by a ship the size of a shuttle. She thought about the weapons she had seen in the museum. The ones that could destroy cities and poison continents. She thought about what these humans might have built in the 100 years since then. You're not afraid of us, Kel said slowly. You never were. No. Then why did you agree to meet with me? Why show me schools and hospitals? Why not just fight? No. Han Mireille's expression softened. Because we don't want to fight. We've done enough fighting for 100 lifetimes. We're tired of it. We'd rather trade with you. Learn from you. Share technology and art and ideas. We'd rather be your friends than your enemies. Friends? The word felt strange in Kel's mouth. We came here to conquer you. We know. But you don't have to. You could turn around and go home. You could tell your empire that Earth isn't worth the cost. You could start something new, instead of continuing something old. Kel shook her head. High Commander Torek will never agree to that. He's never lost. He won't accept defeat. Then he'll experience it for the first time. Han Mireille's voice was gentle but firm. We don't want to destroy your fleet, Ambassador. We really don't. But if you attack us, we'll defend ourselves. And when it's over, we'll still offer you the same choice we're offering now. Friendship or nothing. We don't do conquest. We don't do revenge. We just move forward. Kel stood in the square, surrounded by humans living their ordinary lives, and felt the foundations of her understanding crack and shift. She had come to find weaknesses. Instead, she had found strength. A different kind of strength than she had ever encountered. Not the strength of weapons or ships or armies. The strength of people who had faced their own darkness and come out the other side. I have to return to my fleet, Kel said. I have to report to the High Commander. Of course. Thank you for visiting. Kel started to walk away, then stopped. The girl at the school. The one who drew my picture. Yes, she wasn't afraid of me either. I'm a monster to her people. A threat from the stars. But she just drew flowers. Han Mireille smiled. Children don't know they're supposed to be afraid. Sometimes, that's the wisest way to be. Kel returned to her shuttle and flew back to the fleet. She found High Commander Torek on the bridge of the Valan's Glory, preparing for battle. His officers moved around him with nervous energy, checking systems, confirming targets, counting down the hours. "Report," Torek demanded. Kel told him what she had seen. The schools, the hospitals, the farms, the museums. The children who weren't afraid. The diplomat who offered friendship instead of pleading for mercy. Torek listened with growing impatience. "I don't think they have any," Kel said quietly. "Sir, they're not what we expected. They're not primitives or savages. They're us. They're what we might have been if we had made different choices." Torek's 4 eyes narrowed. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying we should reconsider. Leave this system. Find easier targets. These humans have been through something we haven't. They've already been the conquerors. They've already been the empire. And they decided it wasn't worth it." For a moment, something flickered in Torek's eyes. Doubt. Maybe. Or fear. But then it was gone, replaced by cold determination. "We are the Valan Empire," he said. "We do not retreat. We do not reconsider. We conquer." He turned to his officers. "All ships, prepare to attack. We move in 4 hours." Kel watched him give orders, watched the fleet prepare for battle, and knew in her heart that everything was about to go very, very wrong. The Velan fleet moved like a swarm of metal insects through the darkness of space. 800 warships, arranged in perfect formation, their weapons charged and their shields raised. They had conquered hundreds of worlds this way. They expected to conquer one more. High Commander Torek stood on the bridge of the Velan's Glory, watching Earth grow larger in the view screen. The blue planet hung in space like a jewel, surrounded by its single moon and the tiny lights of orbital stations. It looked peaceful. It looked fragile. "All ships report ready," an officer announced. "We'll reach attack range in 40 minutes. "Good," Torek said. "Today, the humans learn what it means to defy the Empire." On Earth, Admiral Kim Do-hyun stood in the command center, watching the same fleet approach. Around him, officers worked at their stations with quiet efficiency. There was tension in the room, but no panic. They had prepared for this moment for a long time. "The Valan fleet has entered the outer system," Captain Park Yuna reported. "They're maintaining standard formation." "Standard formation," Commander Lee Ji-hoon muttered. "They're not even trying to be unpredictable." "Why would they?" Kim Do-hyun said. "This has worked for them 600 times. They have no reason to change." He studied the tactical display, watching the red dots of enemy ships move steadily inward. "Contact Captain Yoon Tae-ho. Tell him to begin Phase 1. Captain Yoon Tae-ho was waiting near Jupiter, commanding a wing of fast attack ships. He was a veteran of the Mars border conflicts, known for strategies that other officers called either brilliant or insane, depending on whether they worked. "Phase 1, he said to his crew. "Launch the swarm." From hidden platforms throughout the asteroid belt, thousands of drones launched into space. They were small and simple, just engines, sensors, and basic weapons. Each one was barely smarter than a calculator. But there were so many of them. The swarm flowed toward the Velan fleet like a river of metal. On the Velan's Glory, sensors began screaming warnings. "Commander!" An officer shouted. "We're detecting thousands of targets. Tens of thousands." Torek stared at the display. The space ahead of them was filling with contacts, small ones, moving fast, coming from every direction. "What are they?" "Ships? Drones, sir. Unmanned weapons. Destroy them." The Valan fleet opened fire. Plasma cannons blazed, missiles launched, particle beams swept through space. They hit the drones, hundreds of them, thousands of them. The drones died easily, exploding into fragments and dust. But more kept coming. "There's too many," an officer cried. "Our targeting systems can't track them all. Then fire faster! Torek roared. The fleet poured weapons fire into the swarm, but it was like trying to stop a flood with a bucket. For every drone they destroyed, 10 more appeared. The tiny machines swarmed around the Velen ships, crashing into shields, clogging sensors, jamming communications. Commander Bora, commanding the second destroyer in the fleet, watched her displays fill with static. "We can't see anything. We're shooting blind. Stay in formation," Torek ordered over the fleet channel. "Don't break formation," but the formation was already breaking. Ships moved to avoid the thickest parts of the swarm, colliding with each other, blocking each other's fire. The beautiful order of the Velan fleet crumbled into chaos. And then the human ships arrived. They came out of nowhere, literally. One moment, the space around Saturn was empty. The next moment, it was full of warships, as if they had simply appeared from nothing. Cloaking technology, advanced beyond anything the Velan had ever seen. Captain Choi Somi led the first wing. "All ships. Target their engines. Disable. Don't destroy. We want prisoners, not corpses." The human ships moved like dancers, sliding between the confused Velen vessels with impossible grace. Their weapons fired in precise bursts, hitting exactly what they aimed at and nothing else. Engines exploded. Weapons systems went dark. Ship after ship went drifting, disabled, but intact. "We're being slaughtered," Bora reported. "High Commander, we need to retreat." "No retreat," Torek shouted. "Push forward! Break through to Earth!" A portion of the Velen fleet managed to escape the chaos around Jupiter. 300 ships, still in fighting formation, accelerated toward the inner system. They left the disabled vessels behind, determined to complete the mission. They flew straight into Saturn's rings. This was Captain Yoon Taeho's idea. For months, human engineers had hidden weapons platforms among the ice and rock of Saturn's rings, railgun stations, missile launchers, automated defense systems. The Velen didn't know they were there until the rings started shooting. Railgun rounds tore through Velen shields like paper. The slugs were just pieces of metal, accelerated to a fraction of light speed. But at that velocity, they hit harder than any plasma cannon. Ships cracked open. Hulls split apart. The rings of Saturn turned into a killing field. "It's a trap," someone screamed over the fleet channel. "The whole system is a trap." Torek watched his fleet die around him. Half his ships were disabled or destroyed around Jupiter. Now another 100 were being torn apart in Saturn's rings. His mighty armada of 800 vessels was melting like ice in sunlight. "All ships, fall back to Earth orbit," he ordered. "We'll make our stand there." The surviving Velan ships, maybe 200 now, limped toward Earth. They were damaged, demoralized, and terrified. They had expected easy conquest. They had found something else entirely. When they finally reached Earth orbit, the human fleet was waiting for them. Admiral Kim Do-hyun had positioned his forces carefully. Cruisers, destroyers, carriers, frigates all arranged in a sphere around the planet, weapons trained outward. Behind them, Earth's orbital stations had raised their shields and activated their own defense systems. The planet itself seemed to bristle with readiness. "High Commander Torek," Kim Do-hyun said over an open channel, "your fleet is surrounded. You're outnumbered and outgunned. If you continue fighting, you will lose everything. I'm offering you a chance to surrender with honor." Torek stared at the view screen. His ship was damaged. His fleet was broken. And the human admiral was offering him mercy. It was humiliating. It was unbearable. "We do not surrender," Torek said. "All ships, attack." The 200 remaining Velen vessels charged forward. It was brave. It was hopeless. The human fleet responded with overwhelming force. Ships targeted with precision, hitting exactly what they needed to disable each enemy vessel. Shields failed. Weapons went offline. Engines died. The Velen ships were picked apart systematically, efficiently, almost gently. Captain Choi So-mi led a flanking maneuver that cut off the Velan retreat. Her wing of frigates moved like a net, catching the enemy ships trying to flee and disabling them one by one. "Don't let any through," she ordered. "We want them alive." Commander Bora's ship was one of the last still fighting. She watched the battle with a strange kind of clarity, seeing every move the humans made, understanding for the first time how completely outmatched the Velan had been from the beginning. "High Commander," she said over a private channel to Torek. "It's over. We've lost." "Never," Torek growled. "I'll die before I surrender to these creatures. Then you'll die for nothing." Bora's voice was steady. "Our empire has conquered 600 worlds through strength. But strength means knowing when to stop fighting. These humans understand that. Maybe it's time we learned it too." She cut the channel before Torek could respond. Then she opened a broadcast to all remaining Velan ships. "This is Commander Bora. I am assuming command of the fleet. All ships, stand down. Lower your shields and power down your weapons. We are surrendering." "Bora!" Torek screamed. "I'll have you executed for this." "Maybe," Bora said. "But our people will be alive. That's worth more than pride." One by one, the Velan ships stopped fighting. Shields dropped. Weapons went dark. The fleet that had come to conquer Earth hung in space, silent and still. Admiral Kim Do-hyun watched the surrender with a feeling he hadn't expected: sadness. These beings had come to enslave his people, and now they were defeated and afraid. There was no joy in that. "All ships, hold fire," he ordered. "Send medical teams and rescue shuttles. I want every survivor recovered and treated." He paused. "And tell Commander Bora I'd like to speak with her. I think we have things to discuss." And, the Battle of Seoul was over. It had lasted less than 6 hours. The mighty Velan fleet was destroyed, and humanity had lost not a single ship. But as Kim Do-hyun looked at the wreckage floating in orbit around his planet, the broken vessels, the drifting debris, the escape pods blinking in the darkness, he felt no triumph. Only the heavy awareness that this was not an ending. It was a beginning. The news spread across the galaxy like fire through dry grass. The Velan Empire had been defeated. Not by a coalition of species, not by some ancient and powerful civilization, but by a single world that no one had ever heard of. A species called humans, from a small planet called Earth, had broken the greatest fleet the Empire had ever sent. On Velan itself, the ruling council met in emergency session. They argued and blamed each other and demanded explanations. How could this happen? How could 6,000 years of conquest end in a single battle? On the worlds the Empire had conquered, something else happened. The enslaved species heard the news and began to hope. If the Velan could be beaten once, they could be beaten again. Whispers became conversations. Conversations became plans. Rebellions began. First one, then 3, then a dozen. The empire that had seemed eternal started to crack. On Earth, 3 months after the battle, a different kind of meeting was taking place. Han Mirei stood in the Great Hall of the United Earth Council building, watching delegates arrive from across the planet. Diplomats, scientists, military officers, philosophers, everyone who had a stake in what would happen next. This was the moment that would define humanity's place in the galaxy. The last to arrive was Ambassador Kell. She walked into the hall slowly, looking around at the humans with her 4 eyes. She was no longer an enemy. She represented a new faction in the Velan government, reformers who wanted to end the old ways and build something different. She was tired and uncertain, but she was there. "Ambassador," Han Mirai said, greeting her. "Thank you for coming. Thank you for inviting me." Kell looked at the assembled delegates. "I wasn't sure your people would want to see a Velan face so soon after the war." "We're not at war," Han Mirai said. "We never were. You attacked us, and we defended ourselves. That's over now. Just like that? No punishment? No revenge?" Han Mirai smiled. "What would that accomplish? We'd hurt you. Then you'd want to hurt us back. Then we'd hurt you again. That cycle never ends. Ambassador. We know. We spent thousands of years trapped in it. They walked together toward the main chamber. Around them, human delegates nodded respectfully at Kel. No anger, no hatred, just acknowledgement. Your species is very strange, Kel said. We know. The session began. Han Mirai took her place at the central podium and looked out at the faces, watching her human and Velan alike. 3 months ago, she said, the Velan Empire came to conquer Earth. They expected us to surrender or die. We did neither. Now we have a choice to make. What do we do next? The hall was silent, waiting. We could do what the Empire would do, Han Mirai continued. We could use our military advantage to conquer Velan worlds, take their resources, enslave their people. We have the power. After what they tried to do to us, many would say we have the right. She paused, letting the words settle. But we're not going to do that. We're not conquerors anymore. We evolved past that. And we're not going back. A murmur ran through the hall. Han Mirai held up her hand. Instead, we're going to offer something the galaxy has never seen. We're calling it the Galactic Cooperative. Not an empire, not an alliance, not a treaty of non-aggression. Something new. She touched a control, and a display appeared above her. A diagram showing dozens of star systems connected by lines of trade and communication. The cooperative will be voluntary. Any species can join, and any species can leave. There will be no conquering, no enslaving, no forced tribute. Members will trade freely, share technology, exchange knowledge and culture. We'll solve problems together, instead of fighting over them. That's impossible, someone called out. Species don't cooperate. They compete. That's how the universe works. That's how the universe has worked, Han Mirai agreed. Because no one ever tried anything different. We're going to try. Ambassador Kel stood up. The hall went quiet. I have a question, she said. What about the Empire? The Valen have ruled through conquest for 6,000 years. Many of them will never accept this. They'll see it as weakness. Han Mirai nodded. You're right. Some will. And if they attack us again, we'll defend ourselves again. But we think most beings, Velan included, are tired of endless war. They want something better. They just need to see that something better is possible. And if you're wrong, then we'll deal with it. But I'd rather be wrong trying to build peace than be wrong trying to maintain war. The debate continued for hours. Some delegates argued that humanity should use its power to guarantee security. That strength without dominance was an invitation for attack. Others worried about the cost of cooperation, about what humanity would have to give up. But in the end, the vote was overwhelming. The Galactic Cooperative would go forward. In the weeks that followed, something remarkable happened. Species that had been conquered by the Empire sent messages to Earth, asking to join the cooperative. Worlds that had been isolated for centuries opened communication. Scientists who had worked alone started sharing research. Traders who had operated in dangerous black markets found legitimate partners. It wasn't easy. There were misunderstandings, conflicts, old hatreds that flared up without warning. Some species joined and then left. Some refused to join at all. The galaxy didn't transform overnight into a peaceful paradise. But it changed. On Earth, Admiral Kim Do-hyun met with Commander Bora. She had been promoted in the new Velan government, given responsibility for rebuilding the fleet, not as a weapon of conquest, but as a defense force for Velan and its willing allies. I keep thinking about the battle, Bora said. They were walking through a park in Seoul, surrounded by trees and children playing. It was strange for her, this casual peace. We were so certain we would win. We never imagined losing. Neither did we, the first few times we lost wars, Kim Do-hyun said. Then we lost a few more, and a few more after that. Eventually, we realized that winning and losing weren't the only options. What do you mean? I mean, sometimes both sides can win. Or at least, neither side has to lose. That's what trade is. Both parties get something they want. That's what diplomacy is, cooperation is, alliance is. We spent so long treating everything like a battle that we forgot there were other ways to interact. Bora considered this. You really believe we can change? The Velan, I mean. After 6,000 years of conquest? You already have, Kim Do-hyun said. You surrendered when you could have died fighting. You joined the reformers when you could have supported the old guard. You're here right now, walking in a park with your former enemy. Change is already happening. In the former, a few months later, the signing ceremony for the cooperative charter took place. Delegates from dozens of species gathered on Earth Velan, humans, and many others. Some of them had been slaves of the Empire. Some had been conquerors. Now they sat together as equals. Captain Choi Somi was there, standing in her dress uniform. Commander Bora approached her. Captain, Bora said, I wanted to thank you. For what? For offering us medical assistance after you destroyed my ship. I was your enemy, and you treated me with kindness. I've never forgotten that. For Marcount, I've never forgotten that. Choi Somi smiled. You weren't my enemy. You were someone on the other side of a fight. There's a difference. They shook hands, the former opponents, now colleagues in something neither of them could have imagined before. Han Mirai gave the final address. She stood at the podium and looked out at the beings, watching her, some in the hall, millions more, on screens across 100 worlds. For most of history, she said, the strong have conquered the weak. That's been the only rule. We're here to propose a new rule. The strong help the weak, and everyone benefits. We don't want to rule you. We don't want to control you or dominate you or turn you into copies of ourselves. We want to trade with you, learn from you, argue with you, and yes, laugh with you. We want to see what you can create when you're not fighting just to survive. This won't be easy. We'll make mistakes. We'll disappoint each other. Some of us will give up and walk away. But the ones who stay will build something the galaxy has never seen. A civilization based on cooperation instead of conquest. She paused, looking at the faces, watching her alien and human, skeptical and hopeful. That's what we're offering. No threats, no ultimatums. Just an open door. We hope you'll walk through it with us. 1. In the audience, Captain Yoon Tae-ho leaned over to Commander Lee Ji-hoon. Think they'll take the offer? He whispered. Lee Ji-hoon watched the delegates around them, beings from a dozen species. Some nodding thoughtfully, some still uncertain. He thought about all the work ahead, all the challenges and conflicts and setbacks they would face. Then he saw Ambassador Kell signing the charter, her 4 eyes bright with something that looked like hope. Eventually, Lee Ji-hoon said. Outside the hall, the sun was setting over Earth. The sky turned orange and red and purple, colors bleeding into each other like a painting. Stars began to appear, distant suns, distant worlds, distant possibilities. Humanity had reached for those stars and found a universe full of conflict. But instead of adding to the conflict, they had offered something different. It was a beginning. No one knew how it would end. But for the first time in galactic history, there was a chance it wouldn't end in war. And that, Han Mirai thought as she watched the stars appear, was worth everything.